Hello, guys, and welcome to the Empowered Hearts podcast. We have a very special guest today, Les Smith, my teacher. Um, he's a hypnotist, I believe a master hypnotist, and you're going to have to explain what that is. But he has been my teacher for my training. And aside from that, just a very kind soul and somebody with lots of information. And if you guys like our podcast, you're definitely going to want to hear Les's story. So welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm just a guy who's always on an explore, always looking for more, always trying to learn and grow. Yeah.
I love that.
So tell us a little bit about you. How did you end up? I know you used to be a lawyer. I don't know anything else except for that. So please feel free to take the floor and let us know about your story.
Well, I guess I always tell everybody I'm a university dropout. First time I went to university, I dropped out and went and traveled across the country. And I suppose that's the beginning of formation. I left home and went to Vancouver. And then from there, I went to the Yukon and I worked on drilling rigs and crazy things as a young man.
That's crazy, Les. So did I.
I love this.
So I was in Faro, Yukon. Where were you?
I wasn't in Yukon, but that's the job I had was drilling rigs.
Wow.
Yeah. That's
kind of cool.
That's random, but of course.
Yeah. That explains some things, doesn't it? We're very easy together, aren't we, Morgan?
Yes.
Very comfortable. Yeah. There's lots of explanations for that, I'm sure. So I did that, and then I went back to school and I studied sociology and religion because I was just curious. I just knew that I needed to study for no other reason than I just had a yearning to know more and more. I was raised an Irish Catholic and I was a lover of all things spiritual. That's I think the easiest way to say it. If we were going to talk about something that wasn't about being a human, I was all over it. And I was always trying to learn that. I found myself in school. I had finished 3 years of a BA and I didn't know what the heck to do with my life. And for some reason or another, whether I was smart or not, I ended up in law school. And I did that for 3 years and ended up articling at a downtown Bay Street law firm doing corporate commercial work. Did that for almost 5 years. That's a whole world unto itself. And then from there, I started my own practice, doing the things I was more interested in. Although there was lots of corporate commercial work, I was doing things like refugee work. I had some strange specialties about privacy and privilege that I worked in. And then I just reached the point where I knew that I wanted to share information as much more than, fight for people. I wanted to educate people. And I started doing a lot of public speaking in the areas I had specialty in. And that led me to teaching because I was always a big advocate for people who start their own business. I say that's the last real freedom we have in our world is that you can decide for yourself how you're going to generate your income. You're going to generate what you need to make your way through this world. And I see that as one of those last great expressions of freedom. And I've always loved that kind of stuff. And I did a lot of work for entrepreneurs as a lawyer, and I did a lot of entrepreneurial coaching. And that led me to do a bit of a speak at Fleming College in Peterborough. And next thing I knew, they asked me to come and teach. And I said, okay, I can try that. And I ended up staying there and teaching there and part-time at Trent for nearly 25 years.
Wow.
My gosh.
I love that.
And while I did that, the great thing about that was I was able to really pursue my own exploration of myself, my understanding of this thing we call life, this thing that we call an incarnation, and really grow for myself, my awareness of myself, my awareness of my past, my awareness of, what the future is for, I suppose. And that was just a constant theme while I was at Fleming. And ultimately, I used hypnosis as part of my training, as my development. I found that I wasn't who I wanted to be, and I had these blocks and these
Mm.
real deep fears. It's funny, I never ever thought
Mm.
I was a guy who was afraid. And most people, if I say, well, I get afraid, most people would laugh at that idea because I'm pretty outward focused, kind of busy guy. But I became aware of my own fears and my own limitations. And I chose hypnosis as a method of addressing that. And so my hypnotist, who became my teacher, Peggy Kelly, she's the most wonderful human being you'll meet. She lives out in
Mm.
Waterloo. She continues to do hypnosis and train people as hypnotists. Um, yeah, Peggy took me through a series of sessions where I got to bump into myself in past lives and in this life in very young forms, and just learned about some of the crap I've been carrying around, and
Mm.
that maybe that this lifetime was about resolving a lot of that stuff.
Mm.
And so while that continued, I began, studying more and more. I'll say that I think the most important thing is to understand the context in which you're having this lifetime. The context for some people is very, very narrow. I am this body. This body is constantly under attack. I live in a very restrictive world where I don't have any control of me and my life. And I am
Mhm.
largely a victim of myself and others. And that kind of life, that kind of context makes life a struggle constantly.
Yeah.
Um, and as I learn to expand my context so that at the other end of the spectrum, I am just a tiny but essential part of the whole.
Mhm.
And I am doing my version of growth through an illusion that has no meaning except the meaning that I put on it,
Mm.
and is nothing but an enormous opportunity for me to play and experiment and grow. And when my context is something like that, um, life is nothing but opportunity,
Mm.
experience, and growth. Now, I can't say that I live at one end of the spectrum or the other anymore. I'm flying around through that spectrum. But I really believe that as human beings, once we become aware of our context a little bit more, a little bit better,
Mhm.
life can have a whole lot more joy.
Yeah.
And we can endure risk a little bit better. Things don't feel like risks all the time. And so this has just been my journey, and I've tripped on things that are very important to me. The Course in Miracles is very important to me. The work of Paul Selig and Melchizedek is important to me.
Mhm. Yep.
Um, I've bumped into some really wonderful characters whose teachings I think are so powerful, on a very human level. Dr. Joe
Mhm.
Dispenza has been a huge
Yep.
influence. And so these are all the things I love thinking about, I love talking about, and I love teaching about. And having learned this limitless, deep, powerful space that we call our subconscious, our unconscious, that really holds um, answers in a world full of questions. Um, I've become just an advocate to help anybody and everybody who wants to pursue that in themselves, to find it, discover it, dig down deep in it, um, make change for themselves in their context and the way they see themselves and their lives. And that has just become just a joy because, as I say,
Mm.
when Morgan's heard me say this a million times. Every time somebody sits in my chair, I get to grow and learn spiritually and mentally and
Mm.
emotionally,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
whatever they're going through, I will resonate it because we're all just people, right? We're all
Yep.
just doing this thing, walking this path. So that's sort of what brings me to today, I suppose.
So I
There's
guess like you
lots of
say,
stories, but sorry.
I guess like you say how the bug has bit me. I guess the bug of hypnosis bit you, and you just that was a game. Was it just a game changer for you?
It was, taking that first journey into a past life,
Mm,
right? And knowing this is not my imagination. This is
Yeah.
not something I'm making up. I'm tapping into a deeper part of myself, knowing the amount of work. I'm a bit of a heady guy, and I live my life in my head sometimes, and I'm very, very active on a thought basis, which is not helpful. A lot of the time,
Mhm.
it's not
Mhm.
helpful at all, right?
Mhm.
And that's
Yep.
probably one of the my biggest inhibitions in my growth, is that I intellectualize things and I think about them, and I want to understand them, not just
Mhm.
experience them.
mhm.
But anyway,
Yep.
We are both
We're
the
like, yeah, we're the same.
yeah,
same.
yeah, there we go.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
There
Why?
we go. Yeah. Is there a better question? Why? Yeah, so hypnosis allowed me to dip down into a quieter, deeper part of myself. Um, I'd always played with meditation, but as soon as I got into hypnosis and self-hypnosis, it became a real quest. And, for some people, taking 15 minutes a day to meditate is a lot of effort, you
Mhm.
know, stopping and then finding the space and then trying to quiet the mind and just pay attention to being there. I had found it a struggle with
Mm.
this very active mind. And then I found self hypnosis. And then I'd find I'd lose 2 hours in a day off in this world, deep, deep in my subconscious mind, and enjoying, that communication that's available to all of us. It just takes time and effort, but that communication with your higher self and that
Mhm.
communication with the broader self, with the whole of
Yep.
us, and that's been just um, well, it's been informing and just delightful and
Mhm.
a bit addictive.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
a healthy. It's in a
Yeah.
healthy addiction.
Yeah, I agree.
I say everybody's addicted to something, right? We all have
Mhm.
our comforts. We all have the things that we like to do or have or consume or whatever. We all have our little things that bring us comfort. And when we find things that actually build our health mentally and physically, and they bring us comfort, those are the ones to hang on
Mm.
to.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
I would love if you could expand on what you think the mind is, because I know you
Mm.
have your own thoughts about this, and it's a really interesting idea.
Yeah, I have a beautiful buddy, um, and we have long conversations about this. And that alone, when you think about how wonderful it is, like I look at the two of you, it's so wonderful to have somebody that you can share these thoughts with, right?
Mhm.
To have
Mhm.
somebody who wants to explore as badly as you do. And I'm very blessed with that. And my buddy Brian and I actually, a couple months ago, we must have lost 3 hours of our lives just trying to map out the mind. What is the mind? Where is it? What is it? How is it? All
Mhm.
those big, big questions. And I suppose, for me, part of what I've discovered, and this is the part that challenges me now, and at the same time entices me, is the deeper you go, the broader it is. The deeper you go, the more connected it is. The deeper you go, the less that I am me,
Mm.
the
Mhm.
more that I am everything. The less that I am me, and let's instead of saying me, let's say this construction that I've created called less. Um, that as I move away
Mhm.
from that and I move into my deepest nature,
Mhm.
um, my nature that is part of the whole,
Mhm.
that is connected to many, many minds. to the mind, as the Buddha found, right? The Buddha found the path down to the mind. And I think that hypnosis, meditation, whatever these tools we use that turn us inward and take us on an exploration, because it's really an exploration, because it's really not something we have in our minds, right? It's not something we carry around, this deep awareness of who we are. We're too busy being this thing we've created, right? Today I play the role of Les, the lawyer, used to be lawyer, now he's a hypnotist. That's the part I'm playing in the play today. But as I move away from that and I go down into my deeper self, I can be aware of so much of the, I can't come up with a better word than the truth of our nature, of our being. And so the mind really starts there. In my opinion, it starts there, because from there is where we express out and we create. And we go from a limitless, boundless, formless potential to that which we create, with this mind, this powerful aspect of the whole that we're free to use and imagine. And I think that when we're aware that it's our imagination, that all of this stuff that we call ourselves, that's where it comes from. I'm imagining myself as Les, the guy yapping here today, and I imagine that, right? Then I can play that game and I can play that role, and that can be a lot of fun. And that's sort of the tiny spindle that flies off the mind into a tiny version of an expression. And I've done that lots of times, again, in your subconscious mind, you can become really aware of, the thousands of times that you've spun off and created a personality, to see how that personality interacts with other personalities in the world in whatever form you've created it in. And for me, the most meaningful part of that is to just not take myself so seriously. When I get myself in trouble is usually when I'm taking myself way too seriously, and I'm taking this life just way too seriously. And that's where I find that I'll lose my way and become a grumpy old man and really not enjoy what beauty sits in front of me.
I love that.
So I think the mind is one.
Yep.
I think that we are an expression of the mind. We are absolutely an essential part of the universe. The universe is incomplete without every one of us. It is loving all of us, going out and posing questions and exploring, and Morgan knows this, but and making choices. We make choices, and in those choices is the opportunity to learn and grow and become. And the choice doesn't always turn out well. So to me, the mind, it's so I'm going to say its sole usefulness is that it makes choices. Everything else is waddling around trying to make a choice, right? Trying to figure out, what should I do? But when the mind can make a choice, that is the act of being.
It's so true, because they say that you choose happiness, right? Like, we do get to choose what we focus on, and then therefore we live it in our experience. So that's so true. I love that.
Yeah. And I think when you say focus, I think that's such a huge insight, right? You know, when we teach hypnosis, I always use the example of a pen, right? I can pick up a pen with my hand, and my hand's an amazing thing. It's so has such dexterity, and it has such precision, and it can do such beautiful things, from a loving caress to the creation of a building to the writing of a poem. You know, the hand it's got so much potential, but it's limited because it can only hold one thing at a time. And it can only be focused on one action at a time. And the mind's like that. Our attention can only be in one place at a time. And that's beautiful, because it keeps us from being diffuse out there, just wasting away all kinds of energy. But it also means that we got to choose what we're going to use our mind for. We've got to say, this is going to be my focus today. This is going to be my energy today. You know, this morning, for me, mornings are so important.
Yes.
You can't wake up. The sleep state has all kinds of dimensions to it. And it's something I do not profess to know a lot about, because when I sleep, I sleep. I'm not as aware. I know that I could develop it, but I'm not as aware of what goes on when I'm asleep as some people are. Some people are really in tune with that. And so for me, it's the act of coming awake and putting on this cloak that I call less, and starting again. It's really hard not to just pick up where you left off. It's really hard not to just think the things you thought yesterday. It's really hard not to just engage the problems that it had a hold of you yesterday. It's really hard not to just fall into where I left off. But that's my opportunity right there, that moment. That's my chance to really take control of my mind. It's very hard, in my opinion. It certainly is hard for me to be able to take control of my mind and say, I'm going to choose where I put my attention. I'm going to choose what my intentions are, right? That creative act of saying, today, today I'm going to try to be at my highest vibration. Today, I'm going to try to forgive everything and have nothing affect me. I mean, there really is no reason why anything outside of me should affect me. It's
So
only
true.
because I'm busy interpreting everything that's outside of me. I'm giving it meaning. And the meaning is always about me, right? Oh, that means something about me. Don't you dare look at me that way, because that means that there must be something wrong with me. And no, 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 I'm not going to let that be the case. Don't you dare talk to me like that. Everything going on out in the world becomes a personal affront if you let it, right? Like the world of politics and all that stuff can just overwhelm you, because you're taking it all so personally.
Yep.
And you don't have to. You don't.
Yep.
It's got nothing to do with me. In fact, if I can get to the place where I look out there and I say, the world's got nothing to do with me. I'm over here in my little corner doing my best to keep this mind focused on love and forgiveness and allowing and growing and trying to discover and make some really good choices that make me feel joy and excitement. If I'm busy doing that, I have no time to be engaged in what other people are busy doing.
So true.
Yeah. I think one thing that you really have like put in my brain is that we do all have choice. Like that is really, you've anchored it into me in a different way, where I have like a broader perspective of it. And also that, again, like you just said, everything is not, like nothing is about us. And that's like, helping clients with this is reminding them, like, the way that your spouse made you feel is actually a projection of yourself. Like, how can we look at us, our own actions of how you received something? What did it trigger and why?
Yeah.
Like, life is really, it's a big mirror and it's a big projection.
Yeah. I think that's huge. I call that, when I'm working with a client and they get to that place where they say, wait, this is not about me. They calm right down. And then they want to look out there and they want to see what's going on in the world as a reflection of them. and an opportunity for them, I tell them that's next level. That's next level, right? If we can get through this world without getting all beat up and scarred and angry and hurt, if we can get through this world without any of that, that's a good level. For some people, that's really as good as it's going to get. They're just struggling at that level. But when you get to that point where you say, no, I wonder how I can get my mind to the place where I see the world as serving me. I see the world as a mirror of what's going on inside me. And my interpretations of it are all about me. It has nothing to do with that external illusion. You know, it's good to remember nothing has meaning. We put meaning on everything. That's what we are. We put meaning on everything. But the fact that it has no meaning is how we can get away with that.
Could you just dive into that a little bit? Like, so for somebody listening, let's say that has no idea what we're talking about in the sense of nothing has meaning, can you dive into that a little bit?
So here's an idea that I found really useful for me. There's no such thing as reality. There is no reality. There is no verifiable third-party objective truth. It isn't there. What's there in this world, in this experience we have incarnating, is experience. We have our own experience. We are all out there experiencing. And because we're in this life, in this world, in this thing, this process we've chosen to play in for a while, we are individuals, which is really wacky. Right? As you get closer and closer to truth, you realize, no, I'm an aspect of the whole. There is only one. There's only one love, and we all share it. There's only one life, and we all share it. There's only one mind, as the Buddha found out, and we all share it. There's only one. But I'm here to play individual. I'm here to create this character called Les, who's kind of weird, who has been on a journey and discovered different stuff and new stuff all the time. Every time he bumps into something that explains something about his personal experience, he dives all over it and grabs it and pulls it apart and intellectualizes it and then tries to spiritualize it. And this is Les's method, but it's because Les in this experience is playing the role of an individual. So I don't have an awareness of the whole. I have an awareness of my perspective. So if that's all there is, my five senses and whatever else I might be able to access, which, you know, there's so much more to access, but most of us don't see it that way. There's so much more to access, but it's still being interpreted through this little tiny funnel I call my mind. And I'm bringing it all in, and it's all about me. It's just all about me, right? Everything is about me. This is my life. I have no idea what's going on in Indonesia right now. Not a freaking clue, right? And I don't care because I'm here and my senses are perceiving this and my mind is processing it. And then what I naturally do, for better or worse, is I judge. I judge, and that's driven by my fear. My fear that I've made a bad choice to be an individual. I've made a bad choice to be alone. I've made a number of bad choices from the beginning of my life as I move on, and I'm afraid. I'm afraid of judgment. We are judging machines. Everything that comes along, good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. Don't like this, love this, despise that, despise them, love them, honor them. You know, we're judging everything all the time. And from that judgment flow our choices. From that judgment flows the meaning, and from the meaning flows the emotions, and from the emotions flow our choices, because we're very aware of our physical being. So many times I just see this. The struggle is the struggle to overcome the physical. The struggle is to overcome my body's sense of fear. my body's sense of need, my body's sense of, I think, being attacked and defending against attack, and then having attack and doing attack. The body is in this world, being in this world, living in this world, and the mind is just experiencing that. All of that rambling is to say that we have experience, and that's what we have. There is no truth. We have experience. And in that process of having experience, we put the meaning on things. I always joke about the easy example. I go down to the Blue Jay game and they're playing against the Red Sox, and I hate the Red Sox. I don't know why, I just do. There's no rational reason behind it at all. I just hate the Red Sox, as I should, right? Because I'm a Blue Jay fan. And I go down to the game, and the Blue Jays hit a home run, and I'm jumping up and down. I'm elated. I think this is the greatest thing ever. I'm looking over at those Red Sox fans. I'm saying, ha, like, you suffer, I don't have to. And then the next inning, it's the opposite. And they hit a home run, and I'm sitting dejected. They're jumping up and down and cheering. And none of it has any meaning whatsoever, except the individual choices I've made as to where my allegiances are and what I think is good and what I think is bad. And there's no real meaning. It's a bunch of guys hitting a ball, throwing a ball, right? Getting paid ridiculous sums of money, because I'm the guy going down there paying ridiculous sums of money to watch the game. But these are our preferences. These are the things that we choose. And so we really, really put meaning on things that they don't really have any meaning. And that's the experience of being an individual. Did I answer your question?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I love it. Yes.
Krystle and I always just say, like, we really are just on a floating bulb, and nothing means anything, but it also means everything, right?
Yeah.
And it's being able to teeter between the two. Like, Krystle is really good. She says, like, to stay delusional is how she describes it. She stays in dreaming. She's a very big dreamer, and she can separate, quote unquote, real life, however you want to see real life, and how she wants to see real life. And Krystle is she's an amazing manifester. It can just, like, not be in whatever real life is. And I say that with quotations.
Yeah.
That's cool.
The 3D world that we can, like, see, hear, touch, taste, like, smell is, like, really, like, this big compared to, like, what we're actually capable of. It's just that people don't believe that they actually do get to create their life, right? And so I'm obsessed. I could talk about this all day long. Manifesting is, like, my favorite thing in the entire world. I love creating. And then every time something happens, I'm like, of course, but it still just blows your mind. Like, your human mind is like, how can I grasp this concept?
Well, and how little we use it. Like, you've developed a deliberate intention and started creating, and you're like, wow, that was easy, right? And then other people are like, no, life is not something I create. Life is something that happens to me. I am the victim of life. I am the target sometimes of life. And that's their context. And breaking out of that, it's really hard because their experience is really very much that, today, from the instant I woke up, again, why mornings are so important, from the instant I woke up, I'm under attack. And I've got to struggle through this crazy world that has 1,000 million zillion flaws. And absolutely, they're easy to spot and they're easy to obsess over. And then we've completely lost the ability to make choices. And say, I'm going to choose what I think about. I'm going to choose to think different. I'm not going to think about this broken vacuum of mine, I'm not going to think about that. I can think all day long. It's just not going to change what is. But boy, I could sit and I could think about what it'd be like to have a new vacuum. I could think about, having a nice clean house that I never have to vacuum. I can imagine and let my mind play in a world of just imagination and creation. And it might be in some people's view a waste of time, but so is worrying about a broken vacuum. Right?
So true.
That's a waste of time too, right? What I think about is actually an opportunity for choice. I can choose to think about something. That's hard. It's hard because life has problems, right?
And then where we choose to flow our energy. So if we think about like our house being cleaned and maybe we get an opportunity where someone's like, hey, I have a new cleaning service, and you're like, oh, wonderful. Like that's when the world starts to shift and match your thoughts and energy, and it starts to happen for you, which everything does. But it's like energy flows where your attention goes. So what are you choosing to flow your attention to?
And yeah, that's the ultimate choice, isn't it? The ultimate choice we can make as human beings is what we choose to hold in our mind.
So Les, how would you say to somebody who's like never had these thoughts before and is coming to for the first time and you are explaining, victim versus sovereign, like, can you dumb it down? I know that might be hard, but like, what is some advice you would give somebody to be able to not choose to be the victim today? To not choose to see life as happening to us, but happening for us. Is there anything you can offer advice on?
So I think the first thing to do when I'm working with clients, for example, the first thing to do is to just be aware that the things you're thinking, the thoughts you're thinking aren't helpful.
Right.
They're not helping, right? To just be aware that I can think this all day long and it's not helping. And it's not that I don't want to help. I want to help you. I want to be there right beside you, but I can't tell you what to think while you're busy thinking. I can only encourage you to reconsider that what you've been thinking hasn't been helping. And then I encourage this separation. I call it sort of a primary reframe. Morgan's heard me talk about this a lot. I am not my thoughts. I am the thinker. I can choose what I think. When I'm aware that worrying and negative thinking is not helping, then it's just obviously not a good choice. Now, at least we've stopped what's making it worse and fixating our attention. And now we're open to the possibility that we could think something differently. We could think different ideas. We can generate in ourselves a different meaning. That maybe this negative thing is a lesson, is a challenge, is an opportunity. Once we're aware that we're not our thoughts, that we're the thinker, and that we can choose our thoughts, and then we deliberately change some thoughts, we just pause thinking for a while. Now, people do that all the time. People do that naturally, right? That's why people throw on their favorite music. It's why people turn on Netflix. It's why they pick up their phone, right? They pick up their phone and they start flipping only because they're trying to change what they're thinking. They've had enough of themselves. They've had enough of their negative thoughts. They've had enough of their negative experience in which they're feeling like a victim, and they just grab anything that will change their thinking, that will change what's going on in their mind, in their active conscious mind. And that's just a really healthy thing, really.
Mhm.
You know, if we can say that I'm feeling really crappy about myself and I'm feeling really crappy about my life. And so I'm going to pick up my phone and I'm going to watch a YouTube video. That's a much better choice than sitting and thinking about how negative your life is. So that's a positive. Now, the question becomes, is there something better? The question becomes, is there something more I could do? Could I change this thinking pattern, not just with a YouTube video, but maybe a YouTube video about how the mind works? And maybe that's going to not only change what I'm thinking, but it's going to change how I think of myself. And when I can start changing the way I think of myself and I start seeing myself as having the capacity to change what I think, then I can say to myself, well, maybe this meditation stuff isn't just craziness. Maybe this meditation stuff has some merit, because I can see just by putting on my favorite song how it changes my mood. If I can put on a powerfully educating video about how the mind works, well, now I'm opening many, many more doors. I'm creating many more options for myself. And then from there, well, can I be more deliberate about that? Can I choose something that's really actively going to help me? And so for me, part of these reframes, they need to feel truthful, right? The client who's sitting in my chair has to feel like this isn't gibberish. This isn't just silliness, that this is true. I am not what I think. I'm the thinker. I'm not what I do. I'm the doer. I can change what I do. I can change what I do at any moment, at any time. The thing that confines me is not really the world. You know, forgive me for saying it, but I'm just going to say it. Fuck the world.
Yep.
Right?
Amen.
I don't need to think about the world, right? To hell with the world. I'm about me right now. And that's sort of, you know, whether individuality is a great choice or not, that's the plus side of it anyway, is that we can say, I am experiencing this world as an individual. I am not what I do. I am the doer, and I can change what I do at any moment. And at any time I'm running errands, going to work, I can make a left turn and go have ice cream.
So true.
Right?
So true.
I can do that.
We are in our own ways. Like we believe, you know, and what we're taught, that we have to do this. And, you know, everybody's has a different perspective about this. Somebody who maybe was born financially wealthy will tell you, well, you don't have to go to work 9 to 5. What are you talking about? Well, like that's a completely different universe. Somebody who's, you know, maybe had to work since they were 14. Yes, you do have to work. What are you talking about? Of course you go to work 9 to 5. It is important to get an RRSP. Is it important for all these things? But it's like you said, it's an individual experience. And that goes to show like how reality isn't real. Like, yes, we can say this is a couch I'm sitting on, but only because we all collectively agree. If we don't all collectively agree about one thing, then what makes it true? It's truth for us. And reminding ourselves that like we have choice, like you said, to make a left turn and have ice cream. And Krystle's been amazing at teaching me this. Like I was so rigid in my thinking, like you must go to work and do this and do this and do this, and out of fear, right? That no, actually you get to choose today. And if you don't want to do this, then just don't. But it's the fear of, if I don't do this, what will happen?
Yes.
That's what keeps us in confines and structures of things.
Yep. So true. The fear of the unknown.
Yes.
That's what keeps people and like thinking that they're stuck. Again, like we've talked about this on the podcast before about you have a choice always. Just like the ice cream, like you have a choice every single moment of the day. You are choosing what you're doing, what you're thinking about, who you're being.
Choice never goes away.
No.
It feels like it, and it can really feel confining. And that's about the meaning we've placed on things. You know, years ago, when I was at Fleming, I created and taught a course on power. the idea of
Mm.
control, influence, and seduction. And it was really just part of my own journey to understand choice, because, you know, power's target is choice. We live in a world full of structures that are all designed to get the vast majority of people to choose to do the same things. Most importantly, consume. And we can go on and on about that. And for me, being critical of that, we don't need to go in a lot of detail. It's just way too easy from a distance to observe that and say, yeah, that's bad news. That's not helpful. That's not a good system. It serves some, not most. And that's what really where my mind was at the time. I really wanted to realize in the minds of anybody. I wrote a book on this. You know, I really wanted people to realize that what was going on was that they had needs, and they did not have the practiced creativity and curiosity to discover other ways to satisfy their needs. And so what we do is we just turn to others and we say, you do what I say. And we become obsessed with controlling each other. We become obsessed with making each other do things my way. And that's, you know, in my opinion, probably the only thing that you can do bad. In this world, trying to control others is not the answer. Trying to control others is not respecting who they are. Using power. For me, one of the things in a world that's seeking power, yearning for power, everybody wants to be powerful. Everybody loves power. If you understand that power is about using somebody's needs against them, right? Getting them to make a choice by you saying, I can help you get what you want, or I can interfere with you getting what you want. So you better do what I want you to do. That's power. That's power. We do it very, very aggressively in control, where we make it seem like there aren't any choices. This is your only choice. We do it with influence by trying to get people think that one choice is better than another, and good people do it this way and bad people do it that way. And we also do it with seduction, right? If you do what I want you to do, guess what you're going to get, right? And we get people to say, this is what I want. And so to see how choice is completely manipulated by manipulating people based on their needs. And now we are just walking pools of need, right? This is what we are. We're always needing something, right? Needs are everywhere, and anything can be turned into a tool for power. If people need it, want it, seek it, then you can use that to influence or control or seduce their behaviors, and thus getting what we want for us. And so I in my book, I juxtapose that. I call that power. It's life that's about quid pro quo, this for that. Life's a bunch of trades. And that's a life of fear. I'm not going to get what I want. I have to control other people to get what I want. I have to control others to be able to be safe. I have to control others. And that external control, it just creates a never-ending fight. It just creates a never-ending battle. You know, the instant you use power on somebody, it never goes away. They're never going to forget. They're always going to remember that you manipulated them. They're never going to let go of that. When they get the chance, they're going to use it on you, right? And then the opposite is love, compassion, caring, right? You have a need. Can I help? Let me help, right? What's in it for me? Who cares? I help you, you help me, we all help each other. Everything's going to go well, right? So we live in this world that's really focused on power because we're constantly trying to control each other's choices so they benefit us. And yeah, there are some people, there are some groups of people that have an incredible impact on the way society is shaped. But choice never goes away. I don't have to do that. If I'm overwhelmed by my needs, if I'm full of fear that what I need can't be met any other way, then I will comply. I will give in to some degree or another. But when I can use my own curiosity and creativity to find new ways to get what I need, to get what I want, to find my solutions for me as I define them, then I've got choice.
Mm.
And that
Mhm.
choice is a loving expression of life. That's the curiosity of life. So I see those as sort of juxtaposed. I really would love people to start to recognize that power, as much as it might get you what you want, um, it really won't get you what you need. It won't get you very far. And in the end, it will leave you alone.
Mm.
Amazing.
Right. Yep. That is amazing. Yeah.
Okay, Les, we're almost at an hour. That was like the quickest hour that's ever gone by.
For
As
real.
usual.
It flew by.
It's fun thinking about this stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
I
I
just
Thinking
love
about
it.
thinking.
I just want to ask, this is a question we ask our guests and we ask each other, and there's no right or wrong way to answer this. Whatever it means to you, it means to you. So our podcast is called Empowered Hearts, and we started this podcast because we came together as two empowered hearts and wanted to share topics like this of the mind and of the soul and the spirit and life and what is this and how can we help? So what does it mean to you? And again, there's no right or wrong way to have an empowered heart today or in general.
It's really simple. I mean, if you can choose love,
Mm.
right? Choice is power.
Yeah. Mm.
Choice is empowerment, right? As long as I don't lose my choice, as long as I remember I always have a choice, as long as I can come back to and say I can find a different choice, right? Then you have power. You're empowered.
Mm.
You know, and the heart is the creative force. It's the center of
Mhm.
love. It's the center of life. I mean, it's hard for me to separate the word love from the word life. They just mean so much of the same thing to me now. And so, yeah, a loving heart, a loving ability to
Mm.
make choice. There you go. Empowered heart.
Beautiful.
Easier said than done.
Yeah.
But God bless us all, right?
True.
What about you, Krystle? Do you have
It's funny that he said that because I knew you were gonna ask this question, and I'm like, after the day I had yesterday and after the conversation that we just had, is remembering that I get to choose.
Yeah.
I'm never actually stuck
No.
between a rock and a hard place, and I can choose.
Yeah. I will say the same thing. I've had a weird couple days as well. It's just been like I'm in a funk. Nothing has happened. There's nothing wrong. Nothing is wrong internally. It just feels a bit stale and just I think acceptance. Acceptance is reminding us
Mm.
that, rather than judging, I don't like this. This is terrible, is just this is. And having an empowered heart is understanding that we can accept our moment. It doesn't mean we have to give into it, but we can accept it. Accept life
Mm.
it is in the moment, and everything
Mhm.
always changes. That's another constant. So
Yep,
Nice.
so true. I love that.
I'll pass. Thank you so much, Les. We could sit here for hours and talk about everything.
We could.
And you
But
know I would.
I know. I have studying to do. I have reading, and I also have later. I have somebody I'm taking into hypnosis at 5:30. So
Beautiful.
Exciting.
yeah.
Exciting.
So
Everybody learning that they have a mind and they can use it whatever way they want.
yes.
I love that.
Thank you so much for this conversation today. It's been beautiful and so enlightening. And
Yeah.
what is your astrology? I feel like do you know your astrology?
Oh, most people can pick me out of a crowd.
You're either an Aquarius or a Sagittarius. You've got to be.
Oh, interesting. I'm a Leo.
Really?
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah.
but like there's more
I
than
used to have lots of hair.
there's more than you just being a Leo though. Like what's your moon in? What's your rising? Like you've got to be full of Aquarian energy and Sagittarius energy because you're a forward thinker, and it's like your personality might be bold, but there's a lot more to you.
Well, I've always been drawn to the water signs, but
I'm gonna
I
look it
think
up.
I think I've learned a lot about it. One of the things, one of the blessings of living a long time is to come to know your strengths and then to come to know your weaknesses
Mhm.
And then to have time to try to develop your weaknesses so that they become strengths.
Mm.
That, you know, that idea of flexing. That's been for me one of the big life quests, you know, not being that and trying to be more of that. And I think that, yeah, I think maybe the reason you see some of that in me is because I admire it too.
Mm.
I love that.
I'm gonna look it up though anyway. I'm
Okay.
gonna your birthday from Hillary, or you can send it to me. I'm dying to know because like,
Okay.
yeah. But thank you so much for being here, and
Uh,
it's been a beautiful conversation.
Thank you. It was so nice to meet you.
nice to meet you. Truly my pleasure.
Have a good afternoon.
Bye bye.